I always dreamed of building my first Gen Tundra into a full-on Prerunner. But all it took was one stupid mistake to blow up and throw 2 connecting rods out of Toyota's most reliable V8 engine.
Is Toyota's million-mile motor, the 4.7-liter 2UZ FE.
Now my wife laid it out for me. Like, do I stop? She said, if you're gonna rebuild the truck and spend the money on it,
dollar bills, y'all.
she said, I may as well build it exactly how I want. Today's the day we finally take the blown motor out of the Tundra. I'm gonna take the heads off of it.
Off with his head!
I'm gonna put them on the short block I built in the garage. We're gonna get a new timing belt in it, get the accessories on, and it'll be back in here to get this thing running. I've got my American flag underwear on, and I am ready for action. Action! Has anybody seen my camera mount? My plan here, since I'm in the grass, I don't really want to tug this thing up to the driveway, get it around the boat, get the engine pulled up there. I am going to get everything loose. I already have the motor mounts off from when I was taking the oil pan off.
What are you doing with your hands?
And then I am going to jack the motor up in place here on the cherry picker, pull the truck out from under it, and then I will set the engine on something I can work on here. It is a blown engine, so once I get the top end off, it doesn't really matter what happens to the bottom end. And I will tear the heads down here, and then I will just dispose of what's junk later. And when it's time to put the engine in this and everything's nice and clean, at that point we will put it in the driveway and we will work on it out there. But until then, let's just tear this thing down. I believe I have everything disconnected that I need except for the transmission. So at this point, I need to go under, get the transmission unbolted, and the exhaust. And then I had to take the intake off because the starter is wired into the wiring harness and the starter is under the intake manifold. So I had to go in, get that on, done, take this off. That way the wiring harness stays with the truck and we don't break anything. Stay with me! Fuel lines are disconnected, radiators out, all that accessories. The only thing that I was a little sad about is I had to disconnect my AC compressor, so I will have to recharge the air conditioning after this. Not the end of the world, just one more step that I didn't want. So let's go under, let's get the bell housing, let's get the exhaust, and move on. Bell housing is totally free. The only problem I'm having is this exhaust has probably not been apart for 20-something years, and it does not want to come apart. So I'm gonna go get some bigger wrenches and hopefully it breaks loose. One thing I will never get tired of is these Southern trucks. Even the collector bolts came out. They looked rusty, but they came loose. As somebody that came from Wisconsin,
no idea I had a Wisconsin accent.
Worked on rusty stuff his entire life up to this point, I appreciate it every time. But now it's time to get this motor pulled out. We're gonna jack it up, we're gonna pull the truck back, we'll set it down on a piece of wood or something and get the parts off of it that we need. All right, now that the engine is up, I'm gonna go get my tow truck and we're gonna pull this truck out from under the engine so we can put it down. Let's yank this truck. Take 2, bigger strap.
Film that?
It's right behind you. Hell yeah. Always a good sign when your cross member's got a connecting rod and part of an engine block on it. The nut, not so much of a concern.
How come you ain't never liked me? Who the hell said I got to like you?
With the engine down and out, down and out, I am going to put a little tape on the intake runner so my heads don't get any water in them while it's sitting here, because I'm not gonna be able to get the heads off till sometime this week. I have a Camaro water to pump to do tomorrow and probably should take the boat out. Sun is going down, but I have got a bug up my butt, so I'm just tearing it down. I have the timing belt's all loose. I got the valve cover off this side. I'm going to start pulling head bolts, and then I'll do the same on the other. All right, there hasn't been many things about the Toyota design that's bothered me. Not super excited about having to pull the cams to pull the heads off, but we'll get it done. Got the front cover off, got the front seal off, and the pulley. Get these cams out, get the head off. That was easy. Heads are off and in the garage, ready for cleanup and install on the short block. I bought parts that I definitely didn't need. But when I saw these stock Toyota manifolds, I realized that performance was not what they had in mind. Log style manifolds create pretty good back pressure, they're cost effective, and are fairly durable. But what do we want? It is time to start cleaning up the cylinder heads. They are not super bad. Got some oil on the side just from disassembly, but there isn't a crazy amount of grease and grime on these because Toyota does a good job of not leaking. Okay, the valve cover gasket's definitely leaked. Alright, with the heads about as clean as I realistically can get them by hand, I am going to let them dry off. I'm going to oil up the inside real good just so I don't have to worry about it. And then when they're totally dry, I will scrape the head gasket real good, kind of wipe out all the ports and the valves off, make sure that I didn't blast a bunch of grease onto the plug holes and such. And then we will work on getting these on the motor. And let's start putting the top end on this thing. Just for fun, let's throw the valve covers and the intake on just to see what it's going to look like. With the new motor largely ready to go in the truck, I figure it's a good time to quick get this hood off, pressure wash the engine bay out, and get ready for the new motor. And then after we have that done, we'll get the other camshafts in, we'll get the timing on, and we will button that thing up and have it ready to put it. The main goal is going to be to get rid of most of this nasty thick grease that is on the cross member. Everything else is pretty dry and decent. It's just obviously it had an oil leak for a long time. And then we will blow the subframe off too. Probably get the engine block piece and the connecting rod chunk out of there. And we'll get it prepped up, ready for a new motor. Alright, camshafts are in on this side. I did that last night. It was a little bit dark to be filming, and
You merely adopted the dark.
I just wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing before I put it in the video. So I have that side done. I'm going to do the other side. I'll show you all the timing marks, how to get the cams lined up. Toyota did it brilliantly, and they made it easy for me. The journal's all wiped clean. We're going to give it a healthy dose of assembly lube, as always. We'll also put a little bit on each of the caps that the cam pushes the valves down. And then we will be putting the intake cam on, and we are going to be lining it up so the dowel on top is facing directly upward. That'll be towards the timing mark when we put the pulley on. And then we will put assembly lube on all the journals. Never too much lubrication, especially on the initial fire up. Placing the caps on, they are numbered. This is I2, so I1 would be here, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put it that with the arrow pointing out. And right now I'm just getting these started. Right now the cam's turned, so none of the valves have pressure on them right now. You have to do that when you tighten the caps, because otherwise you're going to get uneven pressure on the journal bolt, and with it being an aluminum head, you don't want it to be pulling on any of the threads any more than it needs to. So I'm just going to go through, get them all snug. And then at this point we are going to have to torque these, and then we're going to have to turn the camshaft to line up the alignment mark with the other camshaft when we install it. I always like to start in the middle and then work out. Just keep retorquing it. Make sure that everything stays tight when it is even across. We'll just check them all. They appear to be lined up. There is, with it sitting at number 1 at top dead center, it is trying to compress some valves across the bank over here. So I have it turned so they seem to line up. I'm going to bring it back so there's no tension on this camshaft, and then I will put these caps on and we'll crank it over and make sure that they stayed where they needed to be. See, got the camshafts in both sides. I put the fronts on, sealed them up, got the new seals on. We are going to put the valve covers on. I got these really fresh blue gaskets. They're blue. That's got to be high performance. So we're going to put the valve covers on, and then we'll have to get some of the front timing. There's like some steel shields, stamped steel shields that go on here, and then the pulley, main pulley goes on. We also have to get the water pump bolted in so we can get all the front covers ready for the timing belt. Whammo. Whammo. Alright, timing belt is in. I had to do a bunch of reading and just triple checking because get kind of shady information off of the internet.
I'm offended.
But I got my crank lined up with the little nipple back in there. It's hard to tell, but there's a notch in there. And then camshafts are lined up with the lines. Tensioners in, new idlers in, new belt. Start putting covers on this thing. Let's get a little farther along. We have the fan pulley, we have the belt tensioner, and we have an idler gear. They have to go on here. Next up, crank pulley. Let's get the covers on the timing pulleys. That's better. How about now we get the water neck on so we can seal up that coolant system. And then after that, we'll need a starter, AC compressor, headers, motor mounts. Looks kind of tough. For a while there was way too much red, but now that we're getting some more stuff on there, looks pretty good. Headers and everything are on. Now I just need to go and pull a few things off of the other engine, motor mounts and such, and then I will get this off of the toolbox. We're one step closer to putting it in the truck. The filter housing on, motor mounts, all the covers I could. I have some coolant lines hooked up, the lift hooks are on, the coolant bars that go from head to head are on. Everything should be pretty sorted out. Now it's starting to get heavier and heavier on top of the toolbox. If you remember, I built the short block on the toolbox and never put the assembled engine on the toolbox. So it's a lot of weight. We're going to try to get the cherry picker in here. We are going to try to scoop it from the side, pick it up off of there, and what could go wrong?
These are some of the most famous last words.
Here it is, ready to be put in the truck. Probably next weekend. All I have to do is put the rear main seal in and that plate, but I need to get that off of my blown engine, and then flywheel and the torque converter, and this thing is ready to slide in.
That's what she said.
The time has come. Let's drop a motor in. Have the motor down in place. It took a bit to get the transmission lined up, but that can be expected. These torque converters don't fit like one in an old small block Chevy where they just pop in half a turn, no problem. It was a bit of a more of alignment, got all that in. I have to finish bolting up all the bell housing bolts, get the starter in, all the wiring before I can put the intake manifold on. We are going to keep bolting stuff together and move this thing along. Trudging through. I have everything hooked up, I think, and now it's time to go get some oil, fill this thing up, fill up the radiator, and we'll fire it up. But we are going to go hit O'Reilly so we can find some oil, probably just some cheap stuff for the fire up, and then I'll have another whole set of oil and a new filter to change it out after the fire up so we can get all the, you know, any dirt and metal shavings or anything that's in there, even though we cleaned it. Anytime you tear a motor apart and put it back together, better safe than sorry. Six quarts of oil in. What I want to do next is pull the fuel pump relay. If I can get the box open. Alright, I'm going to pull the fuel pump relay. I believe it's that one right there with the tape. I have a new one for it, but I want to get that out. Crank the motor over a few times without it firing up. That way we can get some oil circulating. And then after that, we'll put the fuel pump relay back in and we'll fire it up for real. Now I'm pretty nervous, but I'm gonna put the fuel pump relay back in. I'm just anxious for it to run. I had a lot of stuff apart, so just getting that first fire up is gonna be a lot. I'm gonna put the fuel pump relay in, make sure that primes up good, and then we're gonna kick this thing over.
The suspense is terrible. He's gonna go this time. I hope it'll last.
My fuel rail's leaking, so probably not getting fuel pressure. Just to verify, because I didn't get it to fire up, I figure I could check for codes, see if there's anything left over from when it blew up, maybe through a code that told the motor, let's cut some fuel or spark. So we'll get that double checked and cleared out, and then we'll try again. It says no codes, which is not a surprise because the battery was disconnected for so long. We will try to start it up again. Take two.
Spraying some liquid.
Is it? Over there it's leaking gas.
Is that
Almost. We gotta figure out the leak.
I'm depressed. It's
Take three. I jumped my boat battery to this battery, so hopefully that gives it enough juice.
The power of Grayskull.
Alright, we have a leaky injector, but it runs. I'm going to pull this fuel rail loose just enough to pop the injectors loose, change the seals out on the top of them, and then, because I did look in my gasket set, it did come with new ones, so I'm going to swap these ones out, and then we'll try again. because of how I blew my motor, basically this being the exact same thing, pulled the injector, some fuel leaked out of the rail, and from a leaky injector, and it filled the cylinder with fluid. I'm also going to pull the coils on this side, pull the plugs, turn it over, just to make sure there's no liquid inside the cylinder, even though I watched it. But I'm just done gambling. Always start your spark plugs by hand first. Last thing you want to do is cross thread ahead. So I always like to run them in as far as I can by hand, and then just tighten them with the ratchet. Good oil pressure. That's what I was mainly worried about. But it runs. I came home to an exciting package that is going to change the way this Prerunner looks. Up till now, it kind of looks like a cartoon character. It's really hard to get pictures of. The headlight openings are just wide open, so we got some lights.
Hey, yo, Akon.
Alright, the new headlights fit pretty close, but I do need to trim a little fiberglass. I'm going to show you. They line up really nice in here, but as they come over, I have just a little bit of the headlight lens hits on here. So I do need to do a little bit of shaving just to get that to clear. And once I do that, both of them should set in. McNeil did a nice job. They've got spots to screw here, here, and one here. So 3 points of attachment. This one basically has the same thing. It fits in the front here, nice and tight, and then the glass touches over here. I did a little bit more looking, and on this side, if you actually fit this, you just kind of slide the lens around the outside of the fiberglass, touching up in this corner here. And I'm gonna just do a light trim on that corner so this can pass through. These are aftermarket lights, so maybe this fits really good with the factory light. But I'm just gonna sand that a little bit with a flapper wheel on the grinder, and then try to pop this through, see if it fits up. We can get these things mounted. I wanna see it on the truck. Just a little trim. It's in there nice and tight. It's not even screwed in. It's all holding itself tight. Can fit there, nice and tight there. And that location's good too. Honestly, McNeil did a super job to just do one little trimming, and like I said, these are aftermarket headlights, so they might be a little different than a factory Tundra. So super nice, super convenient. Headlight stuff is there to screw it in. I'm gonna do the other one, and we'll get this thing screwed in and on the truck. I'm not 100% sure that this is gonna clear with the headlights now, and then all the front sheet metal on the truck. I'm gonna give it a chance. I'm gonna try to slide it up there, see how it goes. Wish me luck. Oh yes.
Well, that was fucking scary.
Stay tuned for the next episode, because we are going to be building the Prerunner bumper. We are going to be mounting the front fiberglass and starting to move on to fun Prerunner stuff.